hmm So good morning there, everybody out there in Facebook land. So, yeah, last night I slept really good. I did take a nap for a few hours in the afternoon. I did get up hella early, and husband came home. Dog handled it pretty well as far as her biophysical biorhythms, and we're getting used to the energy coming in the house. I may but hawk up a few loogies here and there and blow my nose, and I did make some good food yesterday for him and myself, so I could still cook. I just don't see a real reason to in the middle of the week and all that stuff. So I just eat burritos and all that. But anyways, within the last couple weeks, you're hearing a lot of stuff come out of my world. And here's the thing. You don't ever feel sorry for me. Don't fucking ever feel sorry for me. I'll tell you, this is the thing. You're going to find out now with this new COVID era, a lot of people are going to be breaking down, dying, or coming out with things that they were hidden, like Britney Spears. Watch Britney Spears. Hey, John. Okay, Britney Spears has her own issues. You know she went through some shit. She probably went through some MK Ultra stuff. She's a Disney girl, of course, and then they programmed the hell out of her. And she is breaking down, as well as putting out some stuff, you know, Instagram, some music. She collaborated with Elton John. But there's a lot of Hollywood stars that have gone through some major programming that came out of Silicon Valley and bled over into Hollywood, of course, because it's manufacturing personalities, archetypes, bioengineering people and society. And it's like you don't even know who you are until you peel back the layers of programming and find out who you are and who you want to be. So this is the thing. Last night, I was watching Natural Born Killers. I've watched that a million times. In the 90s, I've watched it a few times in the last 20 years. I rewatched it again, and it's hard to watch. You're like, holy shit. But they're trying to tell you something. They're trying to tell you that all the different trauma-based programming, whether it's abuse from parents who are alcoholics, drug addicts, or were part of academia, giving them clues on how to program children. And so, and some also, they have issues with controlling urges, and so the children are the nearest thing that can't defend themselves, that then get the worst of any parent in a household. And so you saw how those two were raised and how they became serial killers. Now, not everyone's going to turn into a serial killer, or we'd have everyone destroying each other. No, there's going to be people who will get triggered into killing somebody. And so that is someone like a Jodi Arias, someone like a Charles Manson, though he hypnotized people to do stuff for him. But people who break and snap, you know, those that are run by money, you know, you see those on Dateline. If you watch, I've watched so many Dateline and 48 Hours Hard Evidence and you know, American Justice and Unsolved Mysteries. I mean, I watched a million of those shows. And so those happen between two people. It is not necessarily something that just happens with a stranger. But it's Jodi Arias is kind of the same thing. But yeah, I mean, that's a case that was really widely known. And that was, I think, because it was, the whole court case was televised and then was put all over YouTube. And so I've watched that many times. I've watched the whole Charles Manson stuff lately. Listened to the video podcast. And I'm like, man, I can identify with these people. Holy shit. And I'm thinking, you know, I may have been through some intense programming, but you guys all have been through some intense programming in your world, okay? And so my case is really not any different than all of your cases. I just happen to have a bit more of a targeted and professional approach. And you guys, not all of you, but a lot of you have the lay approach. You know, your parents went to church and they pounded, you know, the Bible, Bible thumped everything into you. Or they're politically, they just, you know, had you go in Republican or Democrat, or scientifically, they're like, oh yeah, you got to go into the sciences so you can go and do this, this, and this. And so every parent out there has been taught that they really have to scare their kids and force their kids into a profession So, you know, just make the family name look bad and they can survive in this world, right? And so anyway, so that's all over the fucking world. That's in every household. There is no household that is immune to all this. Can you YouTube link? Just go to Robert. Just go to YouTube and hit Charles Manson interviews. Go to YouTube, hit Jodi Arias. Just hit Jodi and the Arias, and you watch all those. Jodi Arias, and there's different people that give off those websites. Okay, just Google it or YouTube it, and you will see all the YouTube. There's so many of them. There's court session 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to whatever. And then you can hear the interviews of Jodi Arias on YouTube. Charles Manson too. Just hit Charles Manson /interview or Charles Manson interview, and you'll find all the Charles Manson interviews. And you can hear the sexual bomb in Jodi Arias, because even in the trials, even when you watch those trials, like, you know, the opening trial, and then it goes to where she was recording her phone conversation, you could hear the sexual tension. You can hear so much of the sexual programming. Okay. And then Charles Manson, the same thing, but then he has a religious side, and where I feel I have identification is because I know how aggressive I was in so many areas, and I would never be driven to kill someone because I ran away from that, and I was shielded from the violence, because when I was raised, we couldn't watch any movies with violence. No violence at all. And so that could be the difference between myself and an actual serial killer or someone that's driven to kill, is that they have been shown violence their whole lives. And the 80s were full of violence. You saw all the slasher movies. I didn't watch any of those slasher movies when I was a kid. Even when I was a young adult. When I was a young adult, I was off doing my own thing, you know, in my 15, 16, and 17, away from the household. So we weren't really watching that stuff. But I think I was at a summer camp, and we watched The Lost Boys. That was probably the most violent. And then the what is it? Damien, The Omen. And that was it. But there wasn't like Halloween or Freddy Krueger or any of that stuff. I was not watching that. No. And so that could have been the difference, is that I wasn't babysat from the TV. And a lot of kids were babysat from the TV, then have violence in their family home. And so girls are sexually abused or been programmed to be sexual, and then they're out looking for a man or a woman or whatever. And of course, men have been circumcised out here in America, and so there's already sexual violence against their penis as soon as out the gate. And so then you see just then the explosion of both worlds coming together, literally and figuratively. And then this is where the family violence comes from, domestic violence. Shit. That's why we're in this great reset, guys, okay? They fucked up many people. Who is they? Well, this goes back to 1940 and before. This isn't the first time that society has gone down this road. I mean, that's why Atlantis, right, was drowned, because they've got in, they what is it? They sunk to such levels. And I'm just speaking in allegory that whole society had to be washed away. Well, we can't do that now, right? Because now, I mean, we have too much history behind us. Be like, well, we're going to have a great flood, right? And wash away everybody. No, so there's got to be a different way where you clean the petri dish. Now you have a choice. We don't need to go back to 1943 and 1945. But these viruses and the frequencies, and then, of course, just people, you know, exhibiting crazy tendencies, then you don't really want to go out in public. You really don't want to hang out with too many people that are strangers. You don't want to invite strangers to your house, because now with these frequencies and the facade is dropping, and people are dealing with cancer disease and chronic illness and autoimmune disorders, and it's like, you know, traumatic stress going on, PTSD. You just stay away. You just stay away. Okay, so when you watch all the different movies, you need to rewatch them, because you're in a different space looking for different things. If you are changing yourself biophysically, mentally, intellectually, and spiritually. Like, again, I'm rewatching some of the Jodi Arias trials. I'm rewatching The Natural Born Killers. I watched Devil in Ohio. Okay, I'm just like, Devil in Ohio. And then I'm thinking like, oh shit, there is a lot of rural areas in Ohio. And yeah, religious cults are all over the place. There's so much religion in Ohio, it's insane. I mean, I'm surrounded by everyone that goes to church, you know, does whatever. And then, you know, there's extremists like out there in the middle of the sticks. I didn't even think about that when I watched that movie. I'm like, oh my God, I'm in, you know, but I'm more in the Northeast and I'm in a more of a crowded area. I'm in the inner city. Thank gosh. I know my husband wants to live out in the middle of the country. I'm like, dude, that's like Amityville Horror. That's like setting yourself up for a cabin in the woods. He likes the whole being out in the middle of nowhere. And I'm like, I don't know if I really want to be out in the middle of freaking nowhere. And if I am, then I'm arming myself to the teeth or something. Because I can just imagine what comes out of the cornfields and shit. You know, I'm just thinking of all the things I'm watching now. But you really now, as an adult, I have to watch these things to be aware of that not everything is what it seems. And you have to be aware of the cults out there. Like, seriously. That's why I'm impressing upon you guys to understand what a cult is. It's based upon sex, love, and death and drugs. Okay? And we're not about sex, love, death, and drugs. In the JJ world, we're about promoting life and hawking out loogies and staying home and staying safe and be a productive member of society, pay your bills, pay your taxes, and keep your nose clean and live within the confines of the law and watch the fuck out, because this world now is even more so. It's always been a crazy place, but even more so because everyone is at the freaking surface. Okay? And so then I'm watching The Devil in Ohio, which is basically how a girl escaped from a cult, and then a psychiatrist who has a background in being in a religious cult that's satanic, taking her in, and then all these things are happening. I'm just in the beginning of the series, but I'm just like, oh my God, this is just too close to home. I'm glad I'm kind of where I'm at. I'm glad I'm sort of in the ghetto. You know, people around me, they're relatively cool, and I don't live next to too much riffraff, so you know, it makes you kind of thankful. And oh my gosh. But yeah, I was, you know, a couple years ago, I was out in the middle of the sticks. Yeah, a lot of things happen in the middle of the sticks. Okay? There's a lot of things that are unsanctioned, that are underground, that you don't know what's going on. And there's probably even kids that are born off the grid that you don't even know existed. And who knows what they're used for. I mean, that's how crazy our society is. When you look at the underbelly, when it's not all like the hearts and flowers bullshit that you see in mainstream media and people who are just like, oh yeah, everything is so great. No, there's a lot of underbelly going on. And you can't close your eyes to it. You can't protest against it because you can't change people. But you can warn your kids, not everything is what it seems. You know, why don't go, like a lady I saw on Facebook, she was jogging at 4 a.m. in Memphis, Tennessee, and she was scooped up by a white van with no windows and kidnapped. That's how crazy our society is. This is not the world that we used to live in the 1980s, where you can go out and hang out and go down the street and play in the park and play basketball and all this other stuff. Oh no, kids are not afraid of adults anymore. People are more brazen in kidnapping someone if they put themselves in a position. Okay? And people are like, oh, she shouldn't be jogging at freaking 4 a.m. The person's like, she should be able to jog. Yeah, okay, but if you're not very worldly and not very aware, then you will be a fucking victim. And there are people out there that don't even know how this world works. They don't know how much trauma people have been under, how desperate people are to make money off of other people, that they'll kidnap somebody that leaves themselves open. That is insane. Let me tell you, those who do human trafficking and all that, they don't want the hard marks. They want the easy marks. They want those that don't fucking get it. They want those that are head in the clouds, are like, I'm going to go jog and be cute and look beautiful and jog at 4 a.m. in the fucking morning at in Memphis, Tennessee. Okay? In a fucking city at 4 a.m. in a park by your goddamn self. That's the stupidity of some people. But oh, she should be able to do that. Well, yeah, in a different world, but we're not in the same world we are, you know? And so, let me tell you, many humans will not get this. Many humans have been trauma-based through politics, religion, and science. And then they have been triggered to attack each other. That's the trauma-based programming, is when you're trying to attack somebody else. I hear my dog. I'm gonna let her do her thing. Let her come down. Okay? That's the trauma-based programming. And so I want to say, I'm not special. I'm just a representation of you in a more intense way. So don't ever feel sorry for me, okay? Because even though someone seems like they're normal, they've been programmed to just be oblivious. And it could be trauma-based too. You don't know what people are dealing with. Everyone's dealing with some sort of trauma on some level, in some way, shape, or form. Okay? And some comes out of it, some people come out of it completely ignorant about the world and think the world is just like happy hearts and flowers. And some people are so aware of the world that they're like so paranoid, and that's me. I'm fucking paranoid as hell. But I have to be. Because if you're not paranoid enough, and if you're too paranoid, then you come off crazy, right? Which I know I kind of come off like that. But when you're too paranoid, then you have an arsenal of weapons in your house, okay, which can lead to some stuff. And if you're not paranoid enough, then you'll be jogging at 4 a.m. and leave yourself open. Okay, so you have to understand, there has to be a healthy sense of paranoia. Again, your kids are not in the same world that it was when you were raised. You have to realize that. So I'm not special. I'm just a representation of you in a more intense way. Don't ever feel sorry for me, because you need to look at yourself in the mirror with your participation in politics, religion, and scientific dogmas, and realize you're like me. You're coming from a trauma-based distinctions. Okay? So politics, all about the war. I don't care, Democrat, Republican, and whatever else out there in your area. All, pro-V and anti-V, pro-GMO, anti-GMO, every single argument that you've been given that you found on Facebook, you got from your friends and family, it's been fed to you by DARPA or somebody else. And so you have to get yourself out of the war. That's politics. Then you have the religions. And it could be every religion in the world. I don't care what it is. Come on, sugar. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go outside. Good girl. It could be any religion in the world. And some religions, well, all religions have their form of violence, because if you don't believe in what they believe in, or you say something that's going to cross them, then you see the devil come out of people. You see the demons come out of people. And I've seen it when I've said something, against their personal religion, as far as just like them, where I'm like, hey, chill out. Can you just stop messaging me or emailing me? And then I had to block them. And then when they go to email, and then the daggers come out, everything comes out. And so even the politics and the spirituality holds the trauma-based programming. When people have gurus, okay, gurus, spiritual gurus, whatever. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get my dogs. Oh, Lordy, give me a second. I'm just going to get something up here. Oh, okay. All right, let me just make sure my doggy's okay. Oh, there's a dog in there. Come on, Shiggy. Come on. Good girl. She actually peed downstairs. She didn't pee up there. And I did take her out in the middle of the night, too, so that's good. All right, yeah, drink your water. Okay. All right. Okay, and so religions, and they could be all types of spirituality. And it could be the star seeds, because they're just as bad, too. Let me tell you, I crossed a star seed, and, man, they're not star seeds like you think. Oh, no, they're the demon seeds. Okay, and so, oh, God. And so then you realize that every single religion, every single political persuasion, every single scientific dogmatic thing, because even with the holistic world, or even curing yourself, where you keep the beast inside of you, even, even demon seeds, I think that's what you're laughing at. And even if you're using holistic remedies, that, and any kind of antibiotic that's given to you by the medical holistic system, that is trauma-based programming. That is kinetic energy, because you're bringing in an antibiotic in your world, and you're attacking your body at the micro level, and then that causes antibodies to develop, and that's the war inside. Okay, and so anyways, so I'm not special. I'm just a representation of you in more an intense way. Don't ever feel sorry for me, because you need to look at yourself in the mirror with your participation in politics, religion, and scientific dogmas. And realize you're like me, coming from a trauma-based distinction, even if you don't admit it. But you can hear the cult-based personalities in what you say, read, write, and go to when you're coping with something that is difficult. And let me tell you, when you guys are coping with people dying around you, and you're looking for the nearest person to blame, it's easy to blame a politician. It's easy to blame Jilly Juice. It's easy to blame any kind of thing out there that you have been programmed to blame. It's so easy. Then you got to realize that is the programming. That's the trauma-based programming that you was programmed into you. As soon as something went wrong in your world, whatever it is, and went against your programming, you went and found something to blame. Again, that's programming. Okay? And so if you watch Natural Born Killers and The Devil in Ohio, now you will see the brainwashing and the propaganda of religious, politics, and scientific based programming. And it's fucked up many people, based programming. Okay, so when that chick in the first, beginning of the series of that Devil in Ohio, she was trained by a bunch of satanic cult worshippers. Okay, she's making little, corn husk dolls and she has like a satanic symbol like carved in her back and all this stuff. And you're like, holy shit. But that's just a physical form of what, when someone is forced to read like scripture every single day. I wasn't in the cult, but I was observing the cult from the inside when I was at that Hawaii Jesus cult, where they had a guy that couldn't speak. He's from Japan. He couldn't speak. He couldn't walk. He just was in a wheelchair. And the wife who gave him to the cult to watch daily, they put headphones on his head, put the Bible right in front of him. He sat at the table 9 hours a day listening to the scripture and reading the scripture. That's how intense religious cults can be. Okay? That's trauma-based programming. Now that I even think about what I witnessed in that place. That's cult. And these are some family friends. The eldest daughter turned to Jesus, turned to the cult. Okay? And so I'm sitting in that Jesus cult for about 6 months. And I'm going to work and partying, getting paid like $20 an hour, maybe paid $100 in rent, pay for my bed, help with the food. And I'm just partying up. I'm just having the time of my life. I mean, I have no intention of taking Jesus into my life. I had no intention of, and then you kind of find out that guy that they had, the cult leader was a pedophile. But holy crap. But then I saw exactly the characteristics of religious trauma-based programming. When you're forcing someone to read scripture daily, when you're forcing some, but it comes from love, right? Everyone there is kind. They weren't mean, at least to your face. They weren't mean. So then you watch people on your Facebook who are in specific religions, and you're like, whoa, this sounds very cult-based, right? Because you hear the love, love, love. You hear the spacey, disconnected way of relating to a hard situation. Oh, I had a headache yesterday, and then God took it away. And I'm just like, oh my God. Oh my God. Literally, oh my God. It's all around you guys. It's all around you. It's every fucking where. And let me tell you, you won't know who they are unless you are a lost person. If you don't know yourself and you have no one kind of giving you a heads up, well, hey, watch out for the smooth talking salesman over there that wants to bring you to their congregation, to their group, to their whatever. And they have activities and things for you to do and stuff like that. And then you get hypnotized into something that you're not even aware that you're getting hypnotized in. And so that's why the whole JJ world is not about converting anyone. It's not about selling J juice to anyone, not coming off like a freaking Mooney cult member. No, you're by example. You've gone through some fucking pain. You felt the pain. You put it on your goddamn Facebook and you say, hey, you know how you break the programming when you face the fucking pain and you're not coping with alcohol, drugs, sex, religion, politics, and scientific dogmas. That you sit with the pain, you feed it. You feed it. You eat. You rest. You watch Netflix to see how the fucking world works. And you stop taking part in the bullshit out there because you're reinforcing the programming. And your kids are getting reinforcing the programming too. They're not going to know the difference between reality and something cult-based because you are still stuck in the cults of politics, religion, and scientific dogmas. And guess who are the purveyors of the cult? That's called academia. Everything came out of Silicon Valley. Look what happened in the 1960s and 1970s. All the cults came out of then. The left, 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 and the right, 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 and then all the religious stuff. The love, love, love people that were based off of LSD, marijuana, all of that. I gotta blow my nose. Hold on. Hi, sugar. Good morning, sugar. Hi, Shuggy. Come here, sugar. Come here, sugar. And so MK Ultra is not only very specific based on how intense the program is not only very specific based on how intense programming is, if the handler knows what they're doing. MK Ultra is in politics, religion, and science. The wars you're in right now, you've chosen to be in as well as been programmed to be in, is what reinforces the trauma and the programming and the absolution in the self-destruction. Okay? And so yeah, there is a programming for you to go into something, whatever it is, in politics, religion, science, and academia, or a service industry, or any kind of job. And then there's a war. And then there's an absolution and a self-destruction. People try to get absolution with their religion. They try to get absolution with the medicine world. They try to get absolution with so many different ways. They want to be guilt-free. So drugs, alcohol, and sex is the absolution for everything that they have committed when they were under the programming. Okay? Because people finally, when they look back on their life and what they may have done or had done to them, and they're feeling so guilty, but they were under programming. Not to say that it absolves them from responsibility, but people get run by so many different things. They don't realize what runs them until later on, after the fact. And then people that were hurt don't realize that you were run by a programming that you didn't really have control over at the time. And so then people look for absolution. Then they realize that's the whole Vampire Diaries. When the vampires realize what they've done, then they become human. Their humanity comes back, and then they can't handle their humanity because they were under a programming. That's the programming. That's Vampire Diaries. Let's bring it back to that allegory. And so that's why people get lost in their addictions, because they cannot handle who they were. They can't handle who they are today. They can't handle even what they think they're going to become or are becoming. Whatever it is, they could be getting Alzheimer's and they can't deal with it. So a lot of trauma, kinetically, internally, and externally, intellectually, physically, and spiritually. So yeah, trauma can happen. That's what I'm saying. Politics, religion, and science. Politics is trauma to the very things that you depend upon. When you think about the finances, the inflation, gas prices, everything that you've come to depend upon and think it's going to affect you, and it does, that's the trauma. Political trauma is the left and the right. Social programs versus how much money the government's going to take from your check to pay for the social programs. That's all trauma. And then there's intellectual trauma. That's the academic. That's why I posted some of my childhood schools, because you can see there's academic trauma. When your parents are forcing you to study every single day and make you study, and make you hate study, make you hate school, make you hate all that stuff. Then you already have biophysical, biochemical issues that also contribute to that. And so then you're hating academia. You're hating that whole system. So there's intellectual trauma. And then there's physical trauma. Oh yeah, that's just all out abuse. You do this, I'm going to hit you type of thing. Okay, and then all the therapies in the medical holistic system is biophysical trauma-based programming. And so, yeah, and this is not to disclude or exclude holistic world, because holistic world and all the therapies, I don't care if it's massage therapy, Reiki, whatever, it's all trauma to the body. When you put your hands on someone, it's trauma. Someone teaches you how to put your hands on yourself, that's also trauma. Some professionals say, oh yeah, you can massage yourself this way. That's trauma to the body. Okay? There's so many different levels of trauma. People think, oh yeah, well, I'm not at that level of trauma, so I'm not fucked up. Oh, we're all fucked up, y'all. Every single one of you is fucked up. Every single one of you. Some of you are willing to face it and you want to do something about it. Others of you are like, yeah, whatever. Speak for yourself. Messed up girl from California moved to Ohio. And so mental health is how do you deal with those who are breaking down intellectually from the trauma-based programming. And you see that in Jodi Arias, and you see that in Charles Manson. You see that in any of these serial killers or people who have destroyed their children and themselves. You hear the intellectual breaking down trauma-based programming. Physical health is how you deal with those who are breaking down physically from the trauma-based programming. Absolutely. Those who are bodybuilders and runners and athletes, you see their bodies breaking down from all that trauma. Okay? That's what I'm saying. You know, your window of being cured and your window of opportunity to be talented and beautiful is a very short window. Some can carry it for a lot of years. Others will have a hard time keeping up the facade. Spiritual health is how you will get absolution for whatever you may have done in the past you thought was your fault, but didn't realize at some point you had to come to terms with the past in order to be accountable for the present. And spiritual health and all of that also, yeah, is is the fact that you were abused with religion. You were trauma-based with religion. Hold on a second. You want to come up here? Come on, Shaggy. All right, come on. There you go. There you go. Good girl. Here. You want to stay up here or not? All right. And so if you're, I'm telling you, every religion, I don't care what it is, every religion has their trauma in it. If it's coming from love, it's coming from sex, love, drugs, and death. If there's sex involved, if there's love involved, if there's drugs involved, and there's death involved, it's all religion-based. And also politics and science. So I'm saying they're all of politics, religion, and science is all religious-based. And so that's why I asked you guys, please consider your religion. Reconsider your religion. Please reconsider your scientific dogmas. Please reconsider your political dogmas. Please find a way to face your fucking pain. Please find a way to be an example. Please find a way to see if you can put that example on your chalkboard, which is your Facebook wall, so people can see they can survive the freaking symptoms. It's not just COVID. It's your own trauma. But I don't want to put my dirty laundry out there. Well, you know, at some point, the dirty laundry is out there. We all know that if you're sexual, then somehow someone abused you sexually. If you're trying to be looking like cute and beautiful and all of that, and you see them all over CNN, Fox, and all that, and even girls on Facebook, and they're showing their bodies and all that stuff, you know someone sexually abused them, whether in their teenhood, from a boyfriend, or from their parents, or from their husband or wife. Kinetic energy. Okay, so it's not like we don't know what you've dealt with by just your facade. It's not that difficult. The intellectuals have had academics intellectually into them. The religious people had religion shoved down their throat. The sexual people had sex on them 24/7 at some point. The pretty people. So it's not like it's obvious. Everybody fucking knows. And if they don't know, they know now. Okay? Humans are not that different because we all been programmed to be at least 12 different archetypes. And then what you put on the outside is how you were programmed. And then what you do behind closed doors, when sometimes what you do behind closed doors comes out. You see, the politicians that are on the instant messaging showing their penis to everybody. And then you know what they probably went through, in adulthood or in a childhood or whatever. And they hide behind their political facade. They hide behind their teacher facade. They hide behind whatever. But there are two sides. Some people bring out what would be behind closed doors because that's what makes them money. Other people were trained in two or three different areas. And then that's where you get the multiple personalities. So you may have an intellectual And then they have a whole like S&M thing in the background. That's their private life, right? But they're an intellectual. You would never think that this intellectual has a whole S&M dungeon, right? But that's the world that we live in. You don't know who people are until, and even if you do live with them, do you know who they are? Then you have to be aware of yourself, and then you know how to protect yourself, and then you can see the programming in other people. But if you can't even see the programming in yourself and admit it yourself, you'll never see it in other people, and then you'll be caught, you know, unaware. You'll be caught surprised. You'll be like shocked and whatever. So you make your diseases and the aging process worse by how you respond to the initial onset of aging and disease, which is the trauma-based programming breaking you down. Okay? And that's what aging is. That's what disease is. That's what cancer disease and chronic illness is. It's all the programming breaking down. And people try to go get a reuptake for whatever, you know, of the programming back in the hospital. And they do, okay, that's fine. I mean, their body is deteriorating and their mind is still relatively okay. But over time, even the mind goes. Or the body goes and the mind's still sharp, but the body goes. That's the torture of the programming breaking down, is that you don't know which is going to go first, your body or your mind. And so personality, emotions, addictions are coping mechanisms to deal with childhood trauma, which is adopted well into adulthood. So your personality right now, all your emotions, your addictions, and your coping mechanisms is your inner child that is stuffed down deep, and then you're trying to put on a facade like you're a mature adult who is running this job, running this company, and then you have all these little skeletons and coping mechanisms in the back of your closet. Some try to hide it, some try to hide it, and they hide it well, sort of, and others, you know, they just said, fuck it, here I am. Deal with it. Okay? And so you want, when you think about it, you want your background to be your foreground, because that way you're not hiding behind anything. And then if you see how you operate in the world and see how the response you get, and then you also see what the outcome of your background and your foreground, then you might apt to want to go and reconfigure your programming. Okay? And still keep whatever skills that you've acquired the last however many years, but now you can program yourself. And that's really the point of the whole JJ world, is that you program yourself, but you came into the JJ world programmed. You came in with fucking trauma in body, mind, and spirit, in politics, religion, and science. You came in with trauma. And are you going to leave the JJ world with the same politics, religion, and science in body, mind, and spirit and all that stuff? Some of you will. You will leave the JJ world and you will still have your politics, you'll still have your religion, and you'll still have your scientific dogmas. Not everyone's going to survive the transition, because the pain of actually fucking changing is too much. Oh, I know it. So the facades get developed and then reinforced in adulthood when the person enters into the same scenarios to keep the programming going. Okay, so you develop a facade from some kind of trauma. It could be a childhood or it could be somewhere in adulthood, who knows? And there's your environment and the influences. You could be watching Mork and Mindy and watching SNL all the time because your mom watched it all the time, and now you want to be a comedian. And then now you have, you know, Robin Williams. Now you have, you know, an Anna Nicole Smith. And she turned into a sex bomb, and she was programmed by the people around her. Okay? It's not difficult to see the programming in people if you pay attention. And if you actually admit to yourself what kind of programming you have. Some of you are hiding behind the alcohol. And I haven't had a cigarette since I told you guys, back when I had the co-infection, I quit smoking. There is no addiction I'm hiding behind now. I'm not drinking. I'm not smoking. I drink coffee. That's it. I have no desire to smoke a cigarette. I have no desire to really drink alcohol at all. I mean, I'm sure it tastes good. I have no desire to do anything that's going to put me off my game as far as intellectually and physically. No desire at all. I purged out all the coping mechanisms. Because I'm telling you, cigarettes, back when I was like 16, 17, 18, 19, I was smoking Newports when I was a kid. Not like a kid, but, you know, 18, 16, 17. We were smoking, what were those? Cloves? with the cloves, we're smoking cloves when I was like 17 on the railroad tracks over there in San Jose at the Foundry School. And then I switched to Newports because I was hanging around with a bunch of people who were in the gangs at the school that I was in. So I was smoking Newports, loved the feeling of menthol, loved menthol for a lot of years. And then later on, I smoked a little pot here and there, okay. But cigarettes was like on and off, on and off. I quit for many, many years. And then when stress came up, I smoked a cigarette. So cigarettes are a coping mechanism. So is alcohol. So are drugs. And until you can purge all that out, you will be programmed and then think you're not programmed because you only peel back maybe a few layers. Maybe you have a few layers of awareness, but then that few layers of awareness then gets overshadowed by the antibodies, by your coping mechanisms that then overshadow your awareness. And then you go right back into the game again. And you keep walking into the same situation that keep reinforcing the programming. That's how predictable humans are. When you take yourself out of everything, and you finally realize that if you go into the same scenarios, same friends, same family, same job, same whatever, you will get reinforced right back into that situation again. So now you see why I say autonomy is the best, because your family is going to program you. Your religion is going to program you. Your children will program you. Your parents will program you right back into self-destruction and the trauma. So the only way to break the programming entirely is a biochemical change. And when you do a biochemical change, you're not going to want to hang out with people. And then after you finally get to a point like where I'm at, where I now know when I'm hanging out with people, I can feel this stuff, but I still will go to dinner with my husband. I will still visit with some acquaintances, but I have absolutely no desire to have a best friend, to have even a group of friends that I hang out with on a periodic basis. I mean, my husband is the link to the outside world. If I go to the grocery store, I'll say hi to the grocery people. I'll talk to them. I'll say hi to strangers in a setting that is relatively controlled. Okay, but pretty fast. And I'll do my stuff. I'll get my interaction through online. Okay, that's how I've developed in the last 6 years, was online. It definitely wasn't my community. My community is all programmed in their perspective, whatever areas. They don't understand where I'm coming from. And if they said they did, they don't. And so then how do you increase your intellect? You have to find the information that is not going to reinforce the old programming. You're going to have to feel the pain biophysically. You have to be at home on your own and face the demons, face the darkness. Okay, so watch the court cases of Jodi Arias. Google that or YouTube that. Listen to Charles Manson. YouTube that. There's so many links, I tell you. There's so many links. And so they both were programmed from sex, love, wars, reproduction, religion, and cults. Then watch people around you and see who exhibits what, who, when, why, when, how. And I'll tell you, then you realize everyone around you is in some kind of cult or another. Because the system has found a way to give somebody something to believe. Develop a god, a goddess. They have put you in a cult. Unbeknownst to you, because you don't think of your politics as a cult-based, oh yeah, it is. You don't think of your science as cult-based, oh yeah, it is. And you don't think your religion is cult-based, oh yeah, it fucking is. Until you step out of it, you won't think it's a cult. Because you think the cults are over there. The ones that the feds went after, Waco and the Moonies and the purple Nikes and all that shit. Your family can be of a cult too. You realize that families are cults as well. You cross the family, all hell fucking breaks loose. So even close family, when they're all hanging out together all the time and that's all they do is hang out together, they don't have really anyone on the outside, that is a cult. That's why they're breaking up the family, because it's cult. It's a cult. It's based on love, sex, death, and drugs. How many families are based upon love, sex, death, and drugs? Every single fucking one of them. Oh, I love my mom, I love my dad, I love my sister, I love my brother. We all hang out together. That's all we fucking do is hang out together. Where's the respect? But, oh, I got to raise my kids. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I'm not saying not raise your kids. I'm not saying have them hate you either. But there's got to be respect. And someone has to be the one to guide someone into respecting themselves, their body, their mind, their spirit, understanding boundaries, understand that teaching the world is not as safe as you think it is. The old formula of what we had to do back in the 80s is not really relevant now. Okay? My husband, he's fishing. Why is he calling me? Let me see. Hold on. Let me see. I'm going to... Hold on a second. Hold on.
What's up?
Hey, you're on Facebook Live. I'm on Facebook Live. Are you okay?
Yeah, just call me. I got some good and bad news. Just call me when you're done.
Good. All right, bye.
All right, bye.
All right. Okay. All right, whatever. Good and bad news. So anyways, so even family can be a cult. Okay? So when you can break away from your family, you broke away from the fucking cult. I know you have kids to raise your kids, teach them respect, and then when the time comes, they need to learn how to be on their own. And they got to be prepared for this world. You can only protect your kids for so long. Okay? But they got to learn how to spend for themselves on some level. And they have to be strong physically, mentally, spiritually, intellectually, academically. They got to be strong. You push a kid out there in the world that's not prepared for it, yeah, they won't survive. And whose fault is that? Well, it's everybody's fault. And so now I realize when I woke up this morning that, yeah, this whole society is cult-based. This whole society is. All the way from family, friends, associations, politics, religion, and science. And you're like, oh my God, how do you now tear down the whole system? Well, the system is tearing down right now. We're in the middle of it, guys. Do you not get it? Inflation, the weather wars, all just the wars in general, people flipping out, the viruses, the cancer, disease, and chronic illness. We're in a huge reset. The system is coming down, and you better figure out how to survive it. And better make sure you teach your kids how to survive it. If not, then yeah, you'll die with everybody else who's part of the cult. The cult of personality. And so maybe it's time now to face everything. Because maybe your kids don't have a chance, and they probably won't have a chance, but at least you will. Because you already instilled in them the old ways. They're now going down that road. They think this is the way the world is. Until they have some kind of trauma that'll teach them something different. So was the trauma-based programming in my world, was that a good thing? It probably saved me. If I went to another family that gave me antibiotics and not really understand, I might have died. So did my mom save me when you think about it with all the trauma-based programming? Probably. Did she also fuck things up too? Probably. That's right now what we're going on. We have people who are fucked up by the system and people who are shining with this system, who are so innovative, who are getting it. And you can't get mad at those that have fell through the cracks. You got to come to terms with that's how shit goes. There are going to be casualties in every war. You don't have to be one. And now you have a choice, but you have a lot of work to do. All of you have a lot of fucking work to do. But again, if you're part of a cult of family, friends, associations, drugs, or what are drugs? Work and all that stuff, it'll be hard for you to tear yourself away from the cult. Because cults are addicting. They reinforce the programming. All right, bye.